Have you ever experienced that strange, uncanny feeling where you're living through something for the second time? That moment when everything around you feels eerily familiar, as if you've been there before, even though you know you haven't? It's as if time momentarily folds in on itself and you find yourself caught in a loop, reliving a memory that shouldn't exist. We call this phenomenon déjà vu, a brief, disorienting sense of repetition that leaves us questioning the very nature of reality. But what if déjà vu isn't just a trick of the mind? What if it's more than just a fleeting glitch in our perception? What if déjà vu is, in fact, a message? A signal from a parallel universe that's trying to reach us? Let me tell you about an experience that changed the way I think about déjà vu. For as long as I can remember, I've had these moments of déjà vu at least every few months. They would strike without warning, while I was walking down a street, talking to a friend, or even just sitting alone in my room. Each time the sensation was the same, a brief, disorienting flash of familiarity that left me feeling unsettled, as if I had slipped out of time for just a moment. Most of the time I would just shrug it off, chalking it up to my brain playing tricks on me. But then something happened that I couldn't ignore, something that made me question everything I thought I knew about reality. It was a quiet evening, and I was at home reading a book. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden light across the room. Suddenly I was hit with that all-too-familiar wave of déjà vu. But this time, it was different. The sensation was stronger, more intense, as if I was not just reliving a moment, but experiencing it for the first time all over again. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a whisper, a soft, indistinct voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I couldn't make out the words, but the whisper sent a chill down my spine. Before I could react, a book that had been sitting on the shelf across the room suddenly fell to the floor with a loud thud. I stared at it, my heart pounding, trying to rationalize what had just happened. But there was no explanation. No one else was in the room, and there was no draft or vibration that could have caused the book to fall. It was as if something, or someone, had pushed it. For the next few days I couldn't shake the feeling that something was trying to communicate with me. The déjà vu moments became more frequent, and each time I felt a growing sense of urgency, as if I was being pulled toward something I couldn't quite grasp. Then, one night, as I was drifting off to sleep, it happened again. This time, the déjà vu hit me like a tidal wave, engulfing me in a sensation of overwhelming familiarity. I felt as if I had lived that exact moment before, lying in bed listening to the faint hum of the world outside, and then, just as I was about to dismiss it, I heard the whisper again. But this time it was different. It wasn't just a sound, it was a message. The whisper was unlike anything I had ever heard before. It was as if 1,000 voices were speaking in unison, their words blending together into a sound that was both melodic and unsettling. I couldn't understand the language, but there was a rhythm to it, a pattern that felt strangely familiar. It was as if the words were being spoken in a code, a language that my conscious mind couldn't decipher, but my subconscious recognized. As I lay there, frozen in place, the whisper grew louder, and the words began to take shape. They weren't in any language I knew, but somehow, I understood their meaning. It was as if the message was being transmitted directly into my mind, bypassing the need for translation. "Trust your heart, not others," the voice said, each word resonating deep within me. "Trust your heart." And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the whisper stopped and the déjà vu vanished, leaving me lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling in the dark. My heart was racing, my mind spinning with questions. What had just happened? Was it a dream, a hallucination, or something else entirely? And what did the message mean? For days I couldn't stop thinking about the experience. I started researching déjà vu, trying to find answers. But the more I read, the more questions I had. Science has long studied déjà vu, offering explanations that range from a brief glitch in the brain's memory processing system to a misfiring of neurons that creates the illusion of familiarity. But none of these explanations seem to fit what I had experienced. There's another theory, a more mysterious one, that suggests déjà vu is not just a neurological anomaly, but a momentary overlap between parallel universes. According to this theory, there are countless parallel realities, each one slightly different from the next. Sometimes these realities intersect, and when they do, we experience déjà vu. A fleeting glimpse into an alternate version of our lives, a world where we've made different choices or where events have unfolded in a different way. What if, in those moments of déjà vu, we're not just recalling a memory, but tuning into another version of ourselves? What if the whispers I heard, the strange message that seemed to come from nowhere, were actually coming from a parallel universe, another me, trying to communicate across the divide between worlds? The idea seems far-fetched, I know, but after that night I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to déjà vu than meets the eye. Perhaps it's not just a quirk of the brain but a window into something much bigger, something that we're only just beginning to understand. To understand this better, let's delve into what science has to say about déjà vu. The most commonly accepted scientific explanation is that déjà vu is a result of the brain misprocessing information. It occurs when our brain tries to create a new memory, but due to a slight delay or glitch, it inadvertently files it in the already experienced section of our memory banks. This creates the illusion that the current experience has already happened. Essentially, it's a trick of the mind where the brain's complex network of neurons fires in a way that temporarily confuses past and present. Some neuroscientists also suggest that déjà vu could be related to a phenomenon called dual processing. This theory posits that two parts of the brain, specifically the temporal lobe and the hippocampus, process sensory input at slightly different speeds. When one part of the brain registers the information a split second before the other, it creates the sensation that we've experienced the event before even though it's happening for the first time. But while these theories provide a plausible explanation for déjà vu, they don't account for the more mysterious aspects of the experience, like the whispers I heard or the book that fell without reason. Could these events be coincidences, or are they something more? Is it possible that in moments of déjà vu our consciousness briefly touches another reality, one where the boundaries of time and space are more fluid and where messages can slip through the cracks? After that night, I started to notice other strange occurrences, small, seemingly insignificant events that felt connected to the déjà vu experiences. Objects would move or fall without explanation, lights would flicker, and I would hear faint, indistinct whispers in quiet moments. It was as if the boundary between worlds had thinned, and I was now more attuned to these subtle shifts. Then, one day, it happened again. I was sitting in my living room, lost in thought, when I felt the now familiar wave of déjà vu wash over me. This time, however, it was different. The sensation was stronger, more intense, as if the very fabric of reality was being pulled apart. And then I heard it, the whisper. But this time it wasn't just a few words, it was a conversation spoken in that same strange melodic code. The sound seemed to fill the room, reverberating off the walls and echoing in my mind. I couldn't understand the words, but I felt their meaning, as if they were being imprinted directly onto my consciousness. For what felt like a full minute, the conversation continued, the voices growing louder and more insistent. It was as if they were trying to tell me something important, something that I needed to remember. But just as suddenly as it had begun, the conversation stopped, and the room fell silent. I sat there trying to process what had just happened. The message was still there, lingering in my mind, but its meaning was just out of reach. All I could remember clearly were the words from before. Trust your heart, not others. After that experience, I couldn't shake the feeling that déjà vu is more than just a neurological glitch. It feels like a message, a signal from another version of myself, or perhaps from someone or something else entirely. It's as if, in those brief moments of déjà vu, I'm connected to a parallel universe, a world where things have unfolded differently, and where the boundaries between past, present, and future are not as rigid as we think. I started to wonder, could déjà vu be a warning? A reminder to trust our instincts, to listen to that inner voice that we so often ignore? Could it be a way for our parallel selves to communicate with us, to offer guidance or advice from a place beyond our understanding? I don't have all the answers, but I do know this. After that night, I've learned to pay more attention to those moments of déjà vu, to listen to the whispers and to trust my heart, because maybe, just maybe, those fleeting moments of familiarity are more than just a trick of the mind. They're a glimpse into something much larger, something that transcends the boundaries of our reality. So now, I'm asking you, have you ever had an experience like this, a moment of déjà vu that felt more like a message than a memory? Have you ever heard whispers or noticed strange occurrences when déjà vu strikes? I'd love to hear your stories. Maybe together we can start to piece together this mystery and figure out what déjà vu really means. If you've had a similar experience, share it in the comments. Let's start a conversation, because I believe there's more to déjà vu than we've been led to believe, and I'm eager to hear what you think.